Hi there, Libra, and welcome back to Bonico Tarot. I'm here with a whole new set of videos, all about the blood moon eclipse today, as well as Mercury Retrograde being kicked off. So I wanted to start this video giving a little bit of astrological background before I do a couple of spreads for you, so that we can take a look at these energies a little bit more in depth. So basically, all the astrologers, of which I am not, I'm just fascinated by the subject, they're all talking that we're all kind of standing at the threshold of the next chapter of our lives. So it's a very key time to be mindful and to be aware of the choices that we're making, to be aware of the time when we should be making choices and taking action. Mercury retrograde is traditionally a time when we don't take action. It's about review, it's about reversing, anything that starts with re. And so, how the eclipse fits in to it is, first of all, it's rare that an eclipse will fall so succinctly in line with a Mercury retrograde. Second of all, it's the longest eclipse in 100 years. I don't know whether it's like we're in a 100-year window. Like it's going to be another 100 years before we have one this long. So it's fairly significant. And it's like we've been going through a series of changes that are closing out an old cycle. And depending on where this falls in our chart, the sign that we are, it's going to affect us differently. Like the vehicles for change will be a little bit different. But generally, we're all going to be feeling contrasts. And those contrasts are going to cause tension, which is then going to push us to be more creative in the moment. As we shed everything old and start creating something new. And this is going to be really fresh. I mean, we're moving in new waves now. So it's not going to be anything like what we had before. And the thing is about change is that most of us don't like it very much. So, although Libra does okay with change. But there are things to watch for. There are other planets that are trigger points for other things as they work in tandem with Mercury retrograde and this eclipse. So Mars, for instance, in order for us to make changes, we need to be confident to step into those new worlds, those new roles, new relationships, etc., etc. So Mars is giving us a lot of energy, but that also means that it's a fine line between being assertive and being aggressive. It's better to lean into the assertive right now, because anything explosive that happens right now is likely going to take a while to clean up. And a lot of the choices that we're making right now are going to affect us for the next 7 years. So again, it's a really good time to be mindful of the choices that you're making right now. What's supporting us through all of this craziness is Venus, which is Libra's ruling planet. So chances are Libras are probably right at the tail end of their shedding process. And so things are starting to lighten up. So on that note, I'm going to switch over to the specific notes that I've made regarding the astrology for Libra. So with the eclipse, this summer there's actually a series of 3, total of 5 all year, but those were in January and February. In fact, if you think back to things that were happening mid-February of this year, it's going to give you a hint as to what it is you're dealing with. Something, you'll see a progression between events that happened back in February and what's happening now. So, the first eclipse, the July 12th one, was in your 10th house of career and prestige, or reputation, fame, all that sort of thing is part of this house. And then this eclipse is happening in your 5th house, which is your house of romance, creativity, children, joy, that kind of thing. And then the final eclipse in this series happens on August 11th, and that's happening in your 11th house, which is your 11th house of community and social networks. So you may already know the progression that you're moving through. That you could have had your priorities on work through the early parts of the summer, but now your attention is being turned to romance, to your family, your children, how it is you experience pleasure, what makes you happy, that kind of thing. And then you're going to bring it back into the community once you've worked through that, whatever closure, because, it's like you'll be preparing for the new community that you may be emerging into. So let's get into Mercury Retrograde, community and social networks. So you're going to see significant changes to your buddies over the next 3 weeks. But you should also be cautious about any long-term decisions that you make regarding your role in the community that you belong to, or numbers of communities that you belong to. Old friends are likely to turn up as well. Mercury Retrograde has a boomerang effect for our friends and lovers, and especially because you're kicking off Mercury Retrograde in the 5th house with this eclipse. There's something regarding your relationships and your relationship to community and how well integrated that is that's coming to the forefront for review, I'm thinking. So the Sun and Mars are actually boosting confidence, but like I cautioned earlier, avoid getting into an aggressive stance when really all you want to be is assertive. The need to be right is something that really should be abandoned altogether, because none of us are really thinking clearly right now. We're not really going to be thinking clearly until after the eclipse on August the 11th, and then even more so once Mercury Retrograde goes direct on August 17th. So Mercury is also well placed for studies and research. So if you do have things that you need to dive in a little bit deeper in that respect, the energies are going to be very supportive for that. And if that's towards your work, even better. Venus will be square Saturn from August 8th until the 11th for Libra. And it's going to put a bit of a pinch on your love life. You're not going to be able to do much. So it's kind of like a 8 of Swords dynamic. You're going to be kind of tied back from the whole thing. You're not going to be able to move. So there may be purpose in that, again, with a key relationship. Saturn is the planet that teaches us to be patient in the face of pressure. And this is all very much, the energies being so intense right now, this is definitely how all of us are being tested. We need to show grace under pressure right now, probably more so. We want to, in hindsight, for this, we'd be like, why didn't I know? And I would have just kept my mouth shut. It's one of those. So, forewarned is forearmed in terms of any sort of unexpected events that come in. Just know that stuff's going to come and poke at you, and you just have to let it roll off your back. Saturn could be doing a lot worse. So let's put aside the astrology, and let's get into the tarot. So, what get some insight on? We can get some insight into the eclipse for Libra, for today's eclipse for Libra. Let's get to today's eclipse for Libra. Into the eclipse. Today's eclipse for Libra. Alright. Looking pretty darn good so far. Wow. Okay. Well, this eclipse is definitely, oh my goodness gracious, it's definitely about loving. Um, Interesting. Whole mishmash of stuff going on. Well, the hidden ground behind everything, you'll be happy to know, is the Nine of Cups. So wishes are coming true. So we'll just put that aside for now. So that's the hidden stuff that is not very obvious to you right now, but perhaps will become obvious through the course of the weekend. So we start the reading off. Focal point is the Three of Cups. So community, fun, enjoyment, sometimes reunion, and this is very much in keeping with the energies. You know, you're transitioning from the eclipse, or you're opening the Mercury Retrograde with an eclipse that's related to your romantic relationships, and then you're moving into reflection about community. So there's something there. There's a dynamic there, how your relationships fit in with your community. Your obstacle is judgment. So the judgment card for me is kind of, you know, getting out, ironically enough, you know, and maybe this is kind of with the energies of the eclipse, because the eclipse is in the 5th house. So what do eclipses do? They actually end things. They close them out. So it's like maybe the truth behind, I don't know, maybe it's hard to say. It's like the truth of the matter is becoming more evident, which is actually a bit of an obstacle. The Chariot, it's a moving forward. It's a charging forward dynamic. It's balanced and it's courageous. So in your recent past, you have the Knight of Cups. So some sort of loving energy, perhaps a water sign, or an offer of love from someone who was coming in the past. And what's crowning the situation is a sense of victory with the Six of Wands. But then, and this is where you can relate in terms of where we're going with all of this, because the short-term outcome is the Four of Pentacles. So that's either not saying anything or being, you know, keeping your money in your purse, holding the purse strings fairly tight, which seems to be a theme for a lot of people. You know, it's, you know, perhaps spending habits need to be addressed for a few signs. Who you are is the Queen of Wands. So you're inspired. You're inspiring. You are moving in a very mature way towards, you know, like there's strong movement, action that's being taken or that's in progress right now. But in your environment, you've got the Hanged Man. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like you got victory, but you've got your cards close to your chest, or you're holding your money real tight. We've got community and having good times, but we've got the Judgment card. So there's a lot of contrast. You may be overwhelmed with the amount of contrast that's happening in the dynamics in relation to your relationship and how it fits into your community. And it seems to be very much in flux. Like I think you're pretty much aware that your community is undergoing some significant change. Your hopes and fears is the King of Swords. So your hopes and fears may be mature communication. Maybe you're looking for a new level in terms of relatability, that you're hoping that you can find people with the same mind, with the same mindset. And it looks as though you're finding that, because the final outcome is the Two of Cups. So this is a very pure, loving relationship, genuine, the real deal. And obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning of the reading, it's a wish come true. So this is the energies for your eclipse. You could be having a fairly interesting weekend, Libra, filled with contrasts and confusion, inner battles, inner deliberation, and trying to figure out where you stand, even. Because even though the hangman may be in your environment, it's very hard to stay passionate about something if you don't have the same passion being reflected back to you. So things are hanging, and it's like, it's got to land, and it hasn't hit yet. But it just might over this weekend. So now that we've taken a look at the eclipse, I'm going to lay 3 cards that will give us some insight as to how you'll be working through the 3 weeks of Mercury Retrograde. So the first card in this particular spread will be, what is it that's under review? Let's have the tarot give us some insight with what is under review for this Mercury Retrograde period. It's hard to tell. So what dropped out there? That's funny. The Hanged Man and the 4 of Pentacles. Yeah, so maybe there's something you need to share with your community so that your community knows what direction they're going in. I don't know. It's very hard for me to figure out. I mean, the Hanged Man suggests a certain amount of enlightenment just because of the halo going on in the picture. So it could be that you're keeping your ideas and your thoughts to yourself until you feel that the community has reached a new level of understanding. Just a thought. I just think it's funny that those same 2 cards came, so I'm going to make sure I shuffle these in really good. So, yeah, I'm not taking those 2 cards. So you're getting a little bit extra here. So, what is under review? You got that, but I want to know. Okay, so your independence and how confident you feel alone. Because it's really only when we get to this point that we actually know what we have to offer in a relationship. And that goes way beyond the material. So yeah. So what's under review is how secure you feel on your own, as opposed to a part of the community, which is what you're going to be reflecting on. So the best advice, I shuffle up, the best advice for processing the changes that you're going through. There it is, Temperance. Everybody's got this advice. Stay cool, man, stay cool. Because that's the way through this one. You know, whatever friction, whatever minor irritations come up, even big giant crises. If we work hard enough through this period with the energies by the time we hit the eclipse on August the 11th, we're actually going to get a sneak peek as to what this new world is going to look like, or just a little glimpse of it. You know, that we're all kind of going, okay, well, all this is ending, but what's coming, right? So, what is coming? There we go. So, looking back, but it's Two of Wands, it's strength, and perhaps with the Two of Wands, there's the promise of partnership at some point, maybe not just yet. And the hidden ground is, guys, maybe feeling a little defensive. You know, which would be natural. You know, going through changes makes us feel vulnerable, so we're not as ready to sort of, you know, embrace our role in any number of different scenarios. So that's when we start getting defensive about things. But I don't think that there's a need for it. I think that, like I said, the effects of this eclipse are going to be fairly long-lasting. The energies will be working and swimming around in them for a little while. So yeah. So it's still a lot of shedding, still a lot of processing and preparation for the next phase. But it looks to me like you're going to do okay. So thanks for joining me again. Please remember to share, like, subscribe, and add a comment if you found that this reading resonated with you. I really appreciate that. And yeah, is there anything else? Oh, yes. So if you would like to contact me for a personal reading, you can find me on Facebook at Bonnet Tarot, and you can send me a message through there. And I also have a few articles that I've been writing, and I will continue to write to give more astrological insights. And normally I would have just pretty much jumped right into the tarot, but there's so much incredible astrology happening right now, I needed to make this video in order to honor it all. So thanks for your patience, and we'll see you again.